Most people do not lose peace because life is always hard. They lose peace because they expect too much from the wrong places. They wait for people to act right. They wait for apologies. They wait for support that may never come. They wait for kindness that should have been simple but never arrived. And little by little, that waiting turns into stress, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. This audiobook is about a different way to live, a calmer way, a stronger way, a way that helps you stay happy without depending on the mood of other people. It is about learning how to care without clinging, how to love without losing yourself, how to give without expecting life to return everything in the exact way you imagined. If you have ever felt hurt by unmet expectations, tired from overthinking, or drained from trying to get peace from people who could not give it, this message is for you. Inside this journey, you will learn how to release pressure, protect your energy, and build a quiet kind of happiness that does not fall apart when others disappoint you. Stay with this, because what comes next may change the way you see people, pain, and peace. Chapter 1. Release unrealistic expectations and create peace within yourself. Most people suffer less because life is hard, and more because life does not match the picture they built in their minds. They imagine people will always understand them. They expect kindness without asking for it. They hope love will always feel fair. They believe effort should always be returned in equal measure. Then reality arrives and does what reality always does. It moves with its own rules. People act according to their habits. Situations change without warning. Promises are broken. Plans fall apart. And when that happens, many people feel shocked, as if life has betrayed them. But life did not betray them. The mind simply made promises that life never agreed to keep. Peace begins the moment you stop demanding that the world behave according to your private script. That does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you begin to see clearly. You begin to understand that disappointment often comes from the difference between what is real and what you hoped would be real. Once you see that clearly, you can start to protect your peace. You can live with more calm. You can love more wisely. You can work more steadily. You can stop handing your mood to every person and every outcome around you. Expectations are not always bad. Some expectations are necessary. You expect honesty in important matters. You expect respect from yourself. You expect your own effort to be serious and disciplined. These expectations build character, but many expectations are not based on wisdom. They are based on fantasy. They are based on fear. They are based on the idea that if you give enough, then people must give back. They are based on the belief that being good guarantees being treated well. They are based on the dream that life should be fair in a way that protects your feelings at all times. That is where suffering grows. A person who expects nothing from others is not empty. That person is free. Freedom comes from understanding that other people may care or may not care. They may support you, or they may ignore you. They may remember your kindness, or they may forget it the moment it becomes inconvenient. This truth can feel harsh at first, but it is also useful. A useful truth saves you from constant pain. A useful truth helps you build a stable life. A useful truth keeps your heart open without making it weak. When you release unrealistic expectations, you do not become less human, you become more mature. You stop treating every disappointment as personal. You stop assuming that every delay means rejection. You stop thinking that every silence means disrespect. You stop turning other people's behavior into a judgment about your worth. That change alone can transform your life. A peaceful person understands a simple fact. Other people are not here to complete your life. They are not here to carry your emotional weight. They are not here to obey your mental script. They have their own fears, habits, limits, and struggles. Some are generous but inconsistent. Some are kind but distracted. Some are loving but emotionally tired. Some want to do better and still fail. When you understand this, you stop making their imperfections mean something personal about you. The problem begins when you secretly say to yourself that someone must act a certain way for you to feel okay. That belief gives away your control. It puts your peace in another person's hands. Then you spend your days waiting for a message, waiting for appreciation, waiting for apology, waiting for someone to notice your effort, waiting for people to become what you imagined they should be. That waiting slowly drains your energy. It creates silent anger. It builds resentment. It makes you needy even when you do not want to be. The heart becomes tense because it is always listening for a response from the world. A better way is to decide that you will do what is right because it is right. You will be kind because that is the person you choose to be. You will be honest because honesty keeps your mind clean. You will help when you can because your values matter. But you will not use these actions as tools to control others. You will not give in order to trap people in gratitude. You will not help in order to buy affection. You will not do good expecting life to reward you on your timetable. That is not wisdom. That is an emotional bargain, and when the bargain fails, the heart suffers. Real peace requires a quiet inner discipline. It starts with telling yourself the truth. Not the comforting version, the true version. Some people will disappoint you. Some people will change. Some people will not treat you the way you deserve. Some people will take what you offer and give little in return. This is not a reason to hate them. It is a reason to stop building your happiness on their behavior. You cannot control their choices. You can control your response. That response should be measured, calm, clear. You do not have to explode. You do not have to beg. You do not have to chase explanations from people who already showed you where they stand. You can simply note the truth and act accordingly. If a person repeatedly ignores your boundaries, you can step back. If someone repeatedly breaks trust, you can become more careful. If a relationship only works when you stay silent about your needs, then it is not a stable relationship. Detachment helps you see this without drama. There is a powerful difference between caring and clinging. Caring says, I value this person or this situation. Clinging says, I need this person or outcome to behave in one exact way or I cannot be okay. Caring is healthy. Clinging is exhausting. Caring allows room for reality. Clinging fights reality every day. Many people think they are loving deeply when in truth they are gripping tightly. Their grip is driven by fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of being alone. Fear of not mattering. But fear never creates peace. It only creates pressure. Release begins with awareness. Start watching your own thoughts. Notice when you say things like they should have called me by now, or they should understand me, or they should have appreciated what I did, or this should not have happened to me. These thoughts are common, but they are not always useful. The word should often hides an expectation that was never promised. The more you use should, the more disappointed you become. Replace it with a calmer question. What is actually happening? What is under my control? What is the honest next step? This simple change can reduce a great deal of suffering. Instead of sinking into emotional argument with reality, you begin to work with reality. That is where maturity lives. Life becomes easier when you stop asking why the world is not fair every moment and start asking how you will respond with strength. A strong person does not spend all day complaining that others are inconsistent. A strong person learns how to stay steady anyway. You can practice this in ordinary situations. When a friend does not reply quickly, do not create a story in your head. When family members do not praise your effort, do not decide that your effort means nothing. When someone cancels plans, do not immediately assume disrespect. Give life room before you give it meaning. Not every delay is an insult. Not every mistake is malice. Not every lack of attention is a statement about your value. Sometimes people are simply occupied, imperfect, or unaware. And even if someone truly is careless with your feelings, you still do not need to destroy your own peace by chasing them. One of the most freeing habits is to lower your emotional dependence on other people's reactions. This does not make you distant. It makes you stable. You can still enjoy love. You can still enjoy friendship. You can still enjoy support. But you no longer demand that these things be your emotional foundation. Your foundation becomes your character, your habits, your self-respect, your ability to stay calm under pressure. When those things are strong, disappointment loses much of its power. Think about how many arguments begin because a person expected something unspoken. They expected loyalty without discussing boundaries. They expected understanding without explaining their needs. They expected effort without making clear what effort meant. They expected perfect timing from someone who barely had control of their own life. Then, when the other person failed to meet the hidden demand, anger followed. Hidden expectations are dangerous because they create invisible tests. The other person never knew there was a test, but you already prepared the punishment in your mind. It is wiser to speak clearly when something matters. Ask for what you need without begging. State your limits without hostility. Share your feelings without attaching your peace to the response. This kind of communication is honest and mature. Yet even then you must accept that people may still choose differently. That is the final lesson. Clear communication is your responsibility. Their response is theirs. Once you release the need to control the outcome, you become much calmer. Many people think detachment means not caring. That is a misunderstanding. Detachment means caring without being enslaved by the result. It means putting effort into what matters and still remaining balanced if the outcome is not what you hoped for. It means giving your best without needing applause. It means loving without demanding that love return in a specific form. It means being involved in life without becoming emotionally dependent on every moment. This way of living takes practice. The old habit of expectation is strong because it feels natural. The mind wants certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants proof that effort will be rewarded. But life rarely offers such guarantees. If you wait for perfect certainty before you live fully, you will waste years. The more useful path is to become strong enough to handle uncertainty. That strength comes from repeated choices. Every time you choose calm over complaint, you strengthen yourself. Every time you choose honesty over fantasy, you strengthen yourself. Every time you choose acceptance over control, you strengthen yourself. Acceptance is not defeat. Acceptance is seeing clearly. It is saying, this is what is happening right now. I do not like all of it. I may not approve of all of it. But I will not waste my energy denying it. From this point I will make a wise choice. That is a powerful sentence to live by. Denial keeps you stuck. Acceptance opens the door to action. You cannot respond wisely to a reality you refuse to see. A peaceful person accepts that some relationships will be seasonal. Some people enter your life to teach you something and then leave. Some people cannot stay because life takes them in another direction. Some people do not have the capacity you hoped for. That can hurt. But pain becomes less destructive when you stop demanding that everything remain unchanged. Growth often requires release. Not every ending is a failure. Not every distance is a tragedy. Sometimes it is just life moving on. There is also peace in reducing comparison. A lot of disappointment comes from seeing how others are treated and assuming you should receive the same. But no two lives are identical. No two people love in the same way. No two families express care in the same way. No two friendships operate on the same level of trust. When you compare yourself constantly, you invite resentment. Your heart begins to count what others have and what you lack. That habit makes satisfaction difficult. A quieter mind asks instead whether today's life is moving in a better direction than yesterday's life. That is a healthier measure. Expectation can also become a form of hidden entitlement. A person gives once and then believes the world owes a return. A person sacrifices once and then expects others to repay the debt in exact form. A person helps and then feels angry when no one notices. But good deeds should be strong enough to stand without bargaining. Do what is right because it aligns with your values. Then let it go. The act itself is enough. This is not weakness. It is freedom from manipulation. You can begin this practice each morning. Before the day starts, ask yourself one honest question. What am I expecting today that I cannot control? Maybe the answer is praise. Maybe it is kindness. Maybe it is a reply. Maybe it is that one person finally changes. Notice the answer without judging yourself. Then gently release it. Tell yourself, I will do my part, and leave the rest alone. That one habit can change the tone of your day. When disappointment comes later, and it will come, because life is life, you will be better prepared. You will not collapse as easily. You will not feel attacked by every unmet hope. You will remember that peace is built from truth, not fantasy. You will remember that your job is to stay centered. Your job is to act with honor. Your job is to keep your mind clean, even when the world is messy. A person who has learned this becomes quietly powerful. Such a person does not need to control others to feel secure. They do not need constant reassurance. They do not need to win every argument. They do not need everyone to understand them. They can stand on their own feet. They can appreciate others without depending on them. They can love without panic. They can work without needing immediate validation. They can face disappointment and remain dignified. That dignity is worth more than being right about every expectation. It protects your sleep. It protects your mood. It protects your relationships. It protects your future. When you stop expecting life to always match your wishes, you become calmer and wiser. You start enjoying good moments more because you are not overloading them with demands. You start recovering from hard moments faster because your mind is not built on fragile hopes. So begin today. Look at the places where you have been asking too much from people and too little from yourself. Look at the hopes that have quietly become demands. Look at the moments where your peace depends on someone else acting a certain way. Then pull that dependence back. Put it into your own hands. Rebuild from there. This does not happen all at once. It happens through repetition, through patience, through honest self-control. You do not need to become heartless to become peaceful. You only need to become clear. See people as they are. See life as it is. See your own power with honesty. Give without attachment. Love without bargaining. Help without silent tests. Speak your needs without fear. Accept what you cannot control. That is how peace grows. And when peace grows inside you, happiness becomes less fragile. It is no longer tied to perfect treatment or perfect timing or perfect understanding. It rises from a deeper place, from discipline, from acceptance, from strength, from a heart that has learned how to stand still while the world keeps moving. That is the kind of happiness no one can easily take away. Chapter 2. Accept people as they are and stay happy. One of the biggest reasons people lose their peace is that they keep trying to turn others into something else. They want quieter voices from loud people. They want more effort from careless people. They want deeper feelings from people who only know shallow ones. They want loyalty from those who have never learned how to be loyal. They want understanding from people who are too busy protecting their own pride. Then they feel hurt when reality refuses to cooperate. A calmer life begins when you accept a simple truth. People are who they are today, not who you wish they were, not who you think they should become, who they are today. This does not mean you approve of everything. It does not mean you stay near people who harm you. It does not mean you ignore bad behavior or pretend it is fine. It means you stop fighting the reality of a person's character. You stop wasting energy on the fantasy that enough pressure will make them different. You stop building your mood around the version of them you invented in your mind. That change alone can save you from a great deal of suffering. Many people suffer in relationships because they keep making the same mistake. They fall in love with potential. They trust hope more than behavior. They look at someone and think that with enough patience, enough love, enough explanation, enough sacrifice, the person will become kinder, more thoughtful, more reliable. Sometimes people do grow, but growth cannot be forced by your desire alone. It must come from their own choice. Until that choice is real, you are only carrying a dream. And dreams are a weak place to build your peace. A happier person learns to pay attention to actions instead of wishes. Actions tell the truth. Words can be polished. Promises can be emotional, apologies can be temporary, but repeated actions reveal the real person. When someone is dependable, you will see it. When someone is careless, you will see that too. When someone cares deeply, their behavior will show it in small, steady ways. When someone does not care enough, no amount of hoping will change that fact. Acceptance becomes easier when you stop arguing with what keeps showing itself. It is wise to ask yourself a powerful question. Am I responding to this person as they are or as I wish they were? That question can expose many hidden sources of pain. The parent who never became emotionally present. The friend who only appears when life is easy. The partner who says the right things but never follows through. The co-worker who takes more than they give. The relative who expects kindness without offering respect. The person you keep defending because you do not want to admit the truth. When you answer honestly, you start to see where your suffering has been coming from. Acceptance brings relief because it ends the exhausting effort of correction. You no longer wake up thinking about how to change them. You no longer spend hours replaying conversations and searching for the exact words that might make them different. You no longer try to manage their personality like a project. You simply observe, you simply notice, and then you make decisions from that clarity. That is a much stronger way to live. People often confuse acceptance with tolerance of harm. That is not the same thing. You can accept a person's limitations and still decide they are not healthy for your life. You can accept that someone is selfish and choose not to rely on them. You can accept that a person is emotionally unavailable and stop expecting them to meet emotional needs they have never shown they can meet. Acceptance helps you see clearly so you can respond wisely. It does not demand that you stay close to everyone. There is peace in releasing the hope that everyone will behave with the same level of care you offer. Some people are thoughtful by nature. Some people are inconsiderate because they never learned better. Some people are kind when it suits them. Some people only love when it is convenient. Some people are simply limited by their own wounds and habits. When you understand this, you stop taking everything personally. You stop feeling insulted every time someone falls short. Not because their behavior is okay, but because their behavior is not always about you. A mature heart knows how to observe without becoming bitter. It sees a flaw and does not deny it. It sees a weakness and does not dramatize it. It sees a pattern and does not keep pretending the pattern will break on its own. This kind of honesty is freeing. You do not have to hate people to stop expecting the impossible from them. You do not have to become cold to become wise. You only need to let reality stand in front of you without decoration. When you accept people as they are, you also stop putting unfair pressure on yourself. A lot of pain comes from trying to make others happy by becoming the person they demand. You shrink your own thoughts. You hide your needs. You over-explain your feelings. You smile when you are tired. You stay silent when something matters. Then you feel drained because you are living inside constant performance. Acceptance gives you permission to stop performing. You can be honest about who you are while still respecting the people around you. This does not mean every truth needs to be spoken at every moment. Wisdom still matters. Timing still matters. But your inner state should not depend on pretending. If someone only values you when you act smaller than you are, then that connection is already unstable. If someone becomes annoyed when you show your real personality, then they may be attached to an image, not to you. Acceptance helps you see whether a relationship is built on truth or convenience. A peaceful person does not force people to become easier. They learn how to meet each person with clear eyes. With one person, you may discuss important matters directly because they can handle honesty. With another, you may keep things brief because they cannot handle depth. With one person, you may share your plans because they are trustworthy. With another, you may share less because they have shown carelessness. This is not cruelty. This is discernment. It is the ability to relate to people based on who they are rather than who you wish they were. One of the most practical ways to practice this chapter is to stop editing people in your mind. The next time someone says something disappointing, do not immediately begin creating a better version of them. Do not rush to explain away the behavior. Do not invent a hidden meaning that makes it easier to cope. Just notice the behavior as it is. Then ask yourself what that behavior tells you. This is not pessimism. It is clarity. Clarity protects your energy. Another helpful habit is to measure the relationship by consistency. One good moment does not define a person. One bad moment does not define a person either. Patterns define people. If kindness appears only once in a while, but selfishness appears all the time, that is the pattern. If honesty appears in hard moments and respect appears, even during conflict, that is the pattern too. Life becomes simpler when you stop judging people by their best day or their worst day and start seeing the full shape of who they are. Acceptance also softens anger. Anger grows when you keep telling yourself that things should be different. A person should know better. They should care more. They should apologize quickly. They should not be this way. While those thoughts may feel justified, they often keep you trapped. Acceptance says, this is how they are right now. I may not like it. I may not accept it as acceptable behavior, but I will stop fighting the fact of it. That pause brings peace. It allows you to act from strength instead of frustration. It is also important to accept your own limits. You cannot rescue everyone. You cannot explain everything perfectly. You cannot make people grow before they are ready. You cannot force maturity into someone who refuses to face themselves. When you accept this, you stop carrying responsibility that was never yours. You can care deeply without taking ownership of what belongs to another person. That balance is one of the clearest signs of emotional strength. Sometimes acceptance means loving from a distance. Sometimes it means shortening the conversation. Sometimes it means no longer asking for what someone has already shown they cannot give. Sometimes it means staying respectful while becoming more guarded. These choices are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are paying attention. You are no longer using hope as a substitute for truth. You are using truth to build a calmer life. If you want to stay happy, you must stop treating people like unfinished versions of your expectations. People will surprise you. They will fail you. They will also sometimes show kindness you did not expect. That is part of the experience of being around humans. The goal is not to control all of it. The goal is to remain steady through all of it. The more you accept people as they are, the less emotionally tossed around you become. You will notice something important when you begin living this way. Your relationships become cleaner, your mind becomes less crowded, your mood becomes less dependent on other people's choices. You stop overthinking every delay and every silence. You start spending more time living and less time waiting for others to become different. That is a great relief. Life feels lighter when you are not carrying the burden of constant disappointment. A wise person knows that peace is not found by changing everyone around them. Peace is found by changing the way they meet reality. Accept the character in front of you. Accept the boundaries in front of you. Accept the limits in front of you. Then make your next move with calm judgment. This is how emotional freedom grows. This is how happiness becomes more stable. This is how you protect your heart without closing it. The more you accept people as they are, the more room you create for gratitude, patience, and self-respect. You stop demanding impossible things from imperfect people. You stop allowing their limitations to control your mood. You stop confusing love with control. And in that space, something stronger begins to grow. You become more grounded, more thoughtful, more peaceful, more alive. Chapter 3. Focus on personal growth instead of seeking approval. Approval is a powerful thing because it can feel like safety. When people praise you, it is easy to believe you are on the right path. When they ignore you, it can feel like something is wrong with you. When they admire your choices, you feel larger. When they question you, you may start shrinking inside. That is why so many people spend their lives trying to win approval from family, friends, partners, co-workers and strangers. They dress for it, they speak for it, they work for it, they hide parts of themselves for it. And in the end, they often discover that approval is a weak foundation for a peaceful life. The moment you make other people the center of your self-worth, you give away your freedom. Your choices become less honest. Your energy becomes scattered. Your mind starts asking not what is right, but what will be liked. That question can quietly damage a life. It can push a person into a version of themselves that looks acceptable but feels empty. You begin to live as a performer rather than as a human being. Every day becomes a stage. Every decision becomes a risk. Every opinion becomes something to manage carefully. That kind of life may look smooth on the outside while feeling exhausted on the inside. Personal growth begins when you stop asking the world to validate your progress. Growth is not a public event. It is private work. It happens in the hours when no one is watching. It happens when you keep your word to yourself. It happens when you choose discipline over comfort. It happens when you read when no one tells you to read. It happens when you wake up and do the difficult thing without needing applause. That is where real change lives. People who seek approval are often trying to fill a gap that cannot be filled from outside. They want someone else to confirm that they matter. They want others to tell them they are enough. They want praise to silence the inner doubt for a moment. But praise fades fast. The hunger returns. Then the person goes looking again. The cycle continues because approval is temporary. Growth is permanent. Approval feels good for a while. Growth builds a life. If you want to move forward with strength, you must begin asking better questions. Not how do I look in their eyes, but am I becoming better in my own life? Not did they notice, but did I stay faithful to my values? Not were they impressed, but did I do something useful today? These questions turn the mind from dependency to responsibility. That shift changes everything. A person committed to growth becomes less fragile. They do not fall apart when someone disagrees with them. They do not chase every compliment. They do not build their identity on reactions. They understand that other people may be impressed one day and indifferent the next. That change in opinion says more about the other person's attention than about your worth. When you understand this, you stop living for a moving target. One of the clearest signs that someone is trapped in approval seeking is that they keep changing themselves to fit whoever is nearby. Around one group, they act one way. Around another group, they become someone else. They say yes when they mean no. They laugh at things that feel wrong. They copy tastes they do not really hold. They hide their real thoughts because they fear rejection. Over time, this creates a tired heart. A divided life drains the spirit. It becomes hard to know what is real because so much has been shaped by the need to be accepted. Personal growth requires a different kind of courage. It asks you to become more honest, even if honesty makes you less popular. It asks you to tell the truth when silence would be easier. It asks you to improve for your own future, not for someone else's approval. This does not mean being rude or stubborn. It means being grounded. You can still be kind. You can still listen. You can still respect others, but you no longer hand them the power to define your direction. The more you grow, the less you need to prove. That is a beautiful part of maturity. Young insecurity often seeks attention. Mature strength seeks progress. A growing person asks, what can I learn here? What can I correct? What can I build? What should I stop doing? These are useful questions because they keep the focus on development rather than image. Image is fragile. Development is solid. There is great value in keeping a private scorecard for yourself. Not a scorecard of popularity, a scorecard of habits. Did you stay focused today? Did you manage your emotions well? Did you avoid wasting time? Did you speak with honesty? Did you practice patience? Did you finish what mattered? These questions reveal the truth of your day better than praise ever could. A person who measures themselves this way slowly becomes stronger because they are no longer waiting for outside approval to know whether they are moving forward. It also helps to understand that people often praise what benefits them and criticize what challenges them. That is human nature. Some will like your growth because it inspires them. Others will dislike it because it makes them uncomfortable. When you rise, you may disturb people who liked you better when you stayed small. That is not a reason to shrink. It is a reason to keep growing. Your job is not to stay easy for everyone else. Your job is to become honest with yourself. A life built on approval is easily controlled by fear. Fear of embarrassment, fear of criticism, fear of being laughed at, fear of being excluded, fear of losing people who only liked a smaller version of you. That fear can keep you trapped for years. But once you begin choosing growth over approval, you become harder to manipulate. You stop asking whether a decision will make people clap and start asking whether it will make your life better. That is a powerful change. Growth also teaches patience. Approval wants immediate reward. Growth understands that real change takes time. It asks you to keep going even when no one notices. It asks you to remain faithful in the invisible stages. This is where many people quit. They do the work only when the result is obvious. But the roots of a strong life are formed underground. In unseen places, in quiet repetition, in ordinary days that look unimportant but shape everything that comes later. You can practice this today in a very simple way. Before making a choice, ask whether you are doing it to impress others or to improve yourself. That question can guide you through small daily decisions. How you spend your morning, how you speak to people, what you scroll through, what you read, what you practice, what you avoid. Growth becomes easier when you keep asking whether your action supports the life you want or merely the image you want. Another useful practice is to spend less time explaining yourself to people who are not trying to understand you. Some approval seekers say too much because they are trying to be accepted. They over-justify their choices. They defend harmless decisions. They ask permission for their own path. But a person focused on growth learns that every explanation is not necessary. You do not need to make everyone comfortable with your healing. You do not need to win every person over before moving ahead. You can quietly work on yourself and let results speak over time. There is peace in becoming less dependent on applause. You start enjoying the process more than the reaction. You start respecting your own effort more than other people's opinions. You start trusting the small improvements no one else sees. That trust is important because self-respect is built there. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your inner life. Each time you choose discipline over the urge to impress, you become more stable. Each time you act from principle rather than approval, you grow a little more free. The truth is that approval can never make you enough if you do not believe it already. And if you do believe it, you no longer need approval to survive. That is the deeper work. Build a life where your confidence comes from real effort, real growth, and real character. Then praise becomes a bonus rather than a need. Criticism becomes information rather than a wound. Silence becomes bearable. Rejection becomes manageable. You stop living as a reflection of other people's moods. The happiest people are not the ones everyone praises. They are the ones who are busy becoming better. They are learning. They are correcting. They are building. They are growing in private and standing steady in public. They know that self-respect cannot be borrowed from applause. It has to be earned through honest work. They know that a life centered on growth will naturally become stronger than a life centered on approval. So step away from the need to be liked at all times. Step toward the quieter work of becoming wiser, stronger, calmer, and more disciplined. Let your focus be your own improvement. Let your standard be your own integrity. Let your energy go into what creates real value. When you do this long enough, you will notice something important. The craving for approval starts to weaken. In its place rises something much better. A steady sense that your life is moving in the right direction, and that is enough. Chapter 4. Build emotional strength by letting go of control. Control is one of the most exhausting habits a person can carry. At first it looks like strength, it feels responsible, It can even seem wise. You plan carefully. You try to predict every problem. You monitor what people say. You worry about what might happen next. You try to arrange life so nothing painful can surprise you. But the more tightly you hold everything, the more fragile you become inside. A person who tries to control too much ends up living in constant tension because life never stays still long enough to obey every plan. Emotional strength begins when you accept that control has limits. You can influence many things, but you cannot own everything around you. You cannot control the mood of every person you meet. You cannot control how quickly others learn. You cannot control the outcome of every effort. You cannot control timing. You cannot control every change that enters your day. You cannot control whether people are fair, patient, thoughtful, or dependable. Once you understand this clearly, a heavy burden begins to lift. You stop fighting what cannot be changed and start using your energy where it truly matters. People often hold on to control because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. A person would rather micromanage than feel helpless. They would rather overthink than accept the unknown. They would rather push than wait. They would rather force than trust. But this response creates more pain than peace. When your mind believes it must manage every outcome, it never rests. It keeps scanning for danger. It keeps rehearsing disappointment. It keeps trying to prepare for every possible loss. That kind of mental habit can make even normal days feel heavy. A stronger response is to separate what is yours from what is not yours. Your thoughts are yours. Your actions are yours. Your habits are yours. Your attitude is yours. Your honesty is yours. Your discipline is yours. Your effort is yours. Those are the places where your power lives. Other people's choices are not yours. Their emotions are not yours. Their opinions are not yours. Their timing is not yours. Their mistakes are not yours. Their growth is not yours to command. The moment you stop carrying what belongs to others, your mind becomes clearer. This does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean stopping responsibility. It means taking responsibility for what you can truly influence and releasing the rest. A disciplined person does not waste their day trying to command the weather. They dress for the weather. They prepare for the weather. They adapt to the weather. Life works the same way. Strength is not pretending everything is under control. Strength is knowing what you can do and doing it well. Many emotional breakdowns happen when life refuses to follow a script. A plan changes. A person disappoints you. A job opportunity disappears. A conversation turns cold. A promise is broken. For someone who clings to control, these moments feel unbearable because they reveal a harsh truth. You were never in charge of as much as you thought. But that truth can become a gift. It teaches humility. It teaches flexibility. It teaches the mind how to bend without breaking. When you let go of control, you make room for resilience. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to remain steady when pain appears. It is the refusal to let every inconvenience shake your center. It is the skill of staying calm in a world that will never give you perfect order. The person who is emotionally strong does not panic every time a door closes. They adjust. They breathe. They think. They continue. There is great value in lowering your need for certainty. Certainty feels safe, but life rarely offers it. You may not know how a relationship will unfold. You may not know how someone will respond. You may not know whether a plan will succeed on the first try. Yet you can still move forward with wisdom. You can prepare well. You can act responsibly. You can stay alert. And then you can let the outcome arrive without collapsing under it. That is a mature way to live. Control also creates unnecessary suffering in relationships. Some people try to control others through guilt, pressure, silence, or constant correction. They want others to behave in ways that protect their comfort. They want conversations to end a certain way. They want people to think as they do. They want love to look exactly how they imagine it. But relationships are not machines. Human beings are not objects. When you try to control people, you create resistance. You create distance. You create stress. The more you grip, the more they pull away. A healthier path is to communicate clearly and then allow freedom. Speak honestly, state your boundaries, express your needs, then accept that the other person still has a choice. You may not like every choice they make, but that is part of life. Emotional strength is learning how to remain composed even when others do not behave as hoped. It is learning how to respect your own needs without demanding ownership over someone else's will. This lesson applies to your own inner world as well. Sometimes people try to control their feelings by pretending not to have them. They dislike sadness, so they hide it. They fear anger, so they suppress it. They want certainty so badly that they never sit with uncertainty long enough to learn from it. But controlling emotion does not make you stronger. Understanding emotion makes you stronger. You can feel disappointment without becoming destroyed by it. You can feel fear without obeying it. You can feel frustration without letting it guide your next decision. A strong person does not always need immediate answers. They know how to wait without panic. They know how to pause without collapsing into worry. They know how to let time reveal what forcing never could. This patience is one of the deepest forms of emotional strength. It prevents unnecessary mistakes. It keeps the mind from rushing into bad decisions. It gives wisdom a chance to speak. One practical way to begin is to notice where you constantly tighten your grip. Ask yourself what you keep trying to control. Maybe it is how others see you. Maybe it is how fast they reply. Maybe it is how a family member should behave. Maybe it is the exact result you want from your hard work. Once you identify the area, practice loosening the hold. Do your part with care and then step back. Remind yourself that effort is your duty and outcomes are not fully yours to command. Another useful habit is to ask a simple question during stressful moments. Is this mine to fix or mine to accept? That question can cut through confusion quickly. If it is yours to fix, then act with focus. If it is yours to accept, then practice calm. Many people waste energy treating every problem like a problem of control, when some problems are really problems of acceptance. Knowing the difference protects your peace. Letting go of control does not make you weak. It makes you wise enough to stop wasting force on what cannot bend. It allows you to put your energy into habits that actually improve your life. Sleep better, speak more clearly, work with discipline, keep your promises, handle disappointment with dignity. Trust that your worth is not measured by your ability to command every outcome. That trust is deeply freeing. There will be times when you still want to control everything. That urge may return in moments of fear. When it does, do not shame yourself. Simply notice it, breathe. Step back. Ask what part of this situation truly belongs to you. Then act on that part and release the rest. Over time, this becomes easier. The mind learns that peace is possible without total control. The heart learns that uncertainty is survivable. The spirit learns that life can still be beautiful, even when it does not follow your exact plan. The truth is that no one lives a perfect script. Every person faces delays, misunderstandings, broken plans, and unexpected turns. The difference is that some people spend their lives resisting this fact while others learn to move with it. The first group stays tense. The second group becomes grounded. The second group sleeps better. They smile more easily. They recover faster. They stop making every setback mean disaster. They understand that not everything that changes is a loss. Not everything that slips away is meant to stay. Not every surprise is a threat. If you want emotional strength, then begin here. Stop trying to control what was never yours to command. Focus on your effort. Focus on your values. Focus on your response. Focus on your discipline. Let the rest unfold without turning every unknown into a battle. The calm that follows will not come from having all the answers. It will come from trusting yourself enough to handle life without forcing it. That is real strength. That is inner freedom. That is the kind of peace that lasts. Chapter 5. Choose gratitude daily and reduce disappointment from others. Gratitude changes the way you see your life. It does not erase pain. It does not deny what is missing. It does not ask you to pretend everything is perfect. It simply trains your mind to stop focusing only on what went wrong and to start noticing what is still right. That shift matters more than most people realize. A grateful person is harder to shake. A grateful person is less likely to feel crushed by the behavior of others. A grateful person knows that disappointment is part of life, but not the whole of life. Many people spend their days counting what others failed to do. They remember the message that never came. They remember the promise that was forgotten. They remember the effort that went unseen. They remember the kindness that was not returned. They remember every small gap between what they gave and what they received. Over time, this habit creates bitterness. It makes the heart tired. It makes even good days feel incomplete because the mind keeps looking for what is absent. Gratitude offers a different way to live. It teaches you to ask a better question. Not what did others fail to give me today, but what did I already receive that I failed to notice? That question softens the heart. It brings attention back to the present. It reminds you that life is still carrying gifts even when people fall short. A quiet meal, a clear morning, a body that still moves, a mind that can still learn. A friend who cared in one small way, a moment of peace, a chance to begin again. These things may seem ordinary until you compare them with the constant pain of wanting more from people than they are able to give. A grateful person is not blind. They see failure clearly. They do not excuse betrayal. They do not pretend neglect is love. They do not call every disappointment a blessing, but they also do not let disappointment become their entire identity. That is the difference. Gratitude does not make you weak. It makes you stable. It keeps one bad interaction from ruining the rest of your day. It keeps one person's behavior from deciding your whole mood. It gives your mind a wider view. When you depend too much on others for happiness, you become fragile. Every delay feels personal. Every silence feels heavy. Every cold reply feels bigger than it is. But gratitude interrupts that cycle. It reminds you that your life is built on more than one conversation, more than one friendship, more than one relationship, more than one expectation. There is a larger picture, and in that larger picture there is still much to value. One of the best ways to practice gratitude is to notice the small things before the mind turns them into nothing. The clean water in your hand, the chance to sit without fear for a few minutes, the ability to breathe deeply, the meal in front of you, the strength to keep going even when your emotions are tired. These are not small in truth. They are the quiet supports that hold a life together. When you begin to respect them, your heart becomes less hungry for outside validation. Disappointment often grows when a person expects one source to meet too many needs. If you expect one person to give you reassurance, respect, loyalty, understanding, comfort, and constant attention, you are setting yourself up for repeated pain. No human being can carry that much demand without failure. Gratitude helps you distribute your emotional life more wisely. It teaches you to appreciate what people do give, instead of obsessing over what they cannot provide. It also helps you accept that not every need should be placed in someone else's hands. The grateful mind is less offended. It does not treat every imperfect response as a personal wound. It knows that people have limits. It knows that good intentions sometimes fail. It knows that others are carrying their own problems. This does not mean you accept poor treatment forever. It means you stop letting every shortcoming control your emotions. That kind of calm brings relief. You save energy. You think more clearly. You suffer less. There is also power in thanking life before the perfect moment arrives. Many people wait to feel grateful until everything improves. They say they will be thankful when they get the job, when the relationship gets better, when the family changes, when the money becomes easier, when the body feels stronger. But gratitude that waits for perfect conditions rarely arrives. Real gratitude starts now. It says, "This day is not perfect, but it still contains value. This moment is not easy, but it still contains something good." That way of thinking protects you from endless dissatisfaction. You can build this habit in practical ways. Each morning choose 3 things that are already working in your life. They do not need to be large. They only need to be true. Maybe you have a bed to sleep in. Maybe you have a friend who listens sometimes. Maybe you have the strength to face today. Maybe you have work to do. Maybe you have the ability to learn from mistakes. When you train your mind to recognize these things regularly, it becomes less obsessed with what is missing. It also helps to practice silent gratitude during difficult moments. When someone disappoints you, pause before reacting. Breathe and find one thing in the moment that does not need to be lost just because this person failed you. Your peace, your self-respect, your ability to choose your next response. These remain yours. This practice does not excuse the other person. It simply prevents them from taking more from you than they already have. Gratitude can protect your inner life in a way anger cannot. A grateful person also becomes easier to be around. They complain less. They notice effort more quickly. They say thank you sincerely. They appreciate small kindnesses. This does not mean they never express problems. It means they do not live in a state of constant dissatisfaction. People often want to be valued, but they forget that value grows in environments where appreciation is common. Gratitude improves not only your mood, but also your relationships. One reason people feel disappointed by others so often is that they have trained themselves to expect a level of care that is not always realistic. They assume others should know what they need. They assume kindness should always be obvious. They assume effort should always be equal. But life does not work that cleanly. Gratitude helps you adjust your expectations without turning cold. It says, "Thank you for what is here," while accepting that more may never come. That is a mature way to live. You do not have to wait for others to become grateful before you begin. You can choose it on your own. You can choose to see the good without becoming naive. You can choose to value what is present without denying what is lacking. You can choose to stop measuring every relationship only by what it failed to deliver. That choice will gradually change your emotional habits. You will become less tense, less resentful, less disappointed by ordinary imperfection. There is a strong link between gratitude and freedom. A thankful mind does not cling as tightly. It enjoys what it has while it is there. It loses less time chasing what is not there. It becomes easier to satisfy because it knows how to notice good things in the present. That is a deep advantage. A person who cannot notice goodness will always feel poor in spirit, even when life is giving them enough. A person who practices gratitude can feel rich in simple days. This habit becomes stronger when you write it down or speak it aloud. Say thank you for the meal. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the strength to continue. Thank you for the people who did show care. Thank you for the chance to start over. These words are not empty when they are honest. They remind your mind that life is still offering support in real ways. The more often you return to this truth, the less power disappointment has over you. Gratitude is also a way of protecting your future. When you train yourself to value what is good today, you are less likely to waste your life chasing approval from others tomorrow. You become grounded in what is real. You stop depending on perfect treatment to feel okay. You stop assuming happiness must come from outside. You start creating a steadier life from within. That kind of life can face disappointment without falling apart. The next time someone lets you down, do not let that one moment define the whole day. Feel the disappointment honestly, but do not feed it endlessly. Then turn your attention to what still remains. Your effort still remains. Your dignity still remains. Your future still remains. The people who care still remain. The chance to choose a wiser response still remains. Gratitude does not remove pain, but it keeps pain from taking over everything. A happier person is not someone whose life has never disappointed them. It is someone who has learned where to place their attention. They know how to notice good while still seeing reality. They know how to appreciate what is present without becoming dependent on what is absent. They know that gratitude is not a mood, it is a discipline, and when practiced daily, it builds a calmer heart, a stronger mind, and a more peaceful life. Chapter 6. Protect your energy by setting healthy personal boundaries. Energy is one of the most valuable things you possess. Every decision you make requires it. Every goal you pursue depends on it. Every relationship you maintain draws from it. Every challenge you face demands it. Yet many people give their energy away so freely that they are left exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. They spend their days solving problems that are not theirs. They carry conversations they no longer enjoy. They tolerate behavior that damages their peace. They say yes when they want to say no. They remain available to everyone while becoming unavailable to themselves. A person can have good intentions and still create a difficult life by failing to protect their energy. Kindness without boundaries often turns into exhaustion. Generosity without limits often turns into resentment. Patience without wisdom often turns into self-neglect. This is why healthy boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. They allow you to care about others without abandoning yourself. Many people hear the word boundary and immediately think of conflict. They imagine arguments, rejection, or distance. In reality, a healthy boundary is simply a clear understanding of what you will and will not allow in your life. It is a decision about how you choose to spend your time, attention, emotions, and effort. It is a way of protecting what matters most so that you can live with greater peace and stability. Without boundaries, other people often decide how your life will be spent. Their emergencies become your emergencies. Their demands become your schedule. Their moods become your responsibility. Their lack of planning becomes your burden. Over time, this creates a quiet form of suffering. You begin to feel trapped. You feel overwhelmed by obligations. You feel frustrated by people who seem to take more than they give. Yet many times the problem is not only what others are doing. The problem is that no clear limit was ever established. One of the most important lessons in life is understanding that your energy is finite. You do not have endless emotional resources. You do not have unlimited patience. You do not have infinite time. Every hour spent on something unnecessary is an hour that cannot be invested elsewhere. Every emotional battle you choose to fight leaves less strength for the things that truly matter. This is why wise people become selective. They do not give their attention to everything. They choose carefully. Many individuals struggle with boundaries because they fear disappointing people. They worry that saying no will make them look rude. They fear being judged as selfish. They fear losing approval. As a result, they keep agreeing to things they do not want. They keep accepting treatment they dislike. They keep sacrificing their peace to maintain temporary harmony. Unfortunately, avoiding discomfort today often creates greater discomfort tomorrow. There is nothing wrong with helping others. There is nothing wrong with supporting friends, family, or colleagues. Problems begin when helping becomes a habit of self-erasure. If every act of kindness leaves you emotionally depleted, something needs to change. If every relationship requires you to ignore your own needs, something needs to change. If every conversation leaves you carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you, something needs to change. A healthy boundary starts with self-awareness. You must first notice what drains you. Pay attention to how you feel after certain interactions. Notice which situations consistently leave you exhausted. Notice which people create stress every time they enter your day. Notice where your patience disappears. Notice where resentment quietly grows. These feelings are often signals. They are telling you that a boundary may be needed. Many people ignore these signals because they have been taught to prioritize everyone else's comfort. They become experts at reading other people's emotions while remaining disconnected from their own. They know when someone else is upset, disappointed, or frustrated, but they rarely stop to ask themselves how they feel. This habit creates imbalance. A healthy life requires attention to your own inner experience as well. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. A simple and respectful no can protect hours of your time and days of your peace. Yet many people avoid it because they believe they need a perfect explanation. They feel obligated to justify every decision. They search for reasons that will satisfy everyone. The truth is much simpler. Not wanting to do something is often enough. You do not owe endless explanations for every personal choice. The more comfortable you become with saying no, the more honest your life becomes. You stop agreeing to commitments you secretly dread. You stop filling your schedule with obligations that do not align with your priorities. You stop creating stress that could have been avoided. This honesty benefits everyone involved because people know where they stand with you. Another important boundary involves emotional responsibility. Many people spend years trying to manage the emotions of others. They constantly worry about making everyone happy. They feel responsible for fixing sadness, preventing disappointment, and solving every conflict. This burden becomes incredibly heavy. The truth is that every adult is responsible for managing their own emotional life. You can offer support, you can listen, you can care deeply, but you cannot carry someone else's emotions for them. When you accept this truth, many relationships become healthier. You stop feeling guilty every time someone is upset. You stop rushing to solve problems that are not yours to solve. You stop believing that another person's mood automatically reflects your failure. This creates emotional freedom. You remain compassionate without becoming consumed. Boundaries also protect your mental focus. In today's world, distractions constantly compete for attention. Messages arrive at all hours. Notifications interrupt concentration. People expect immediate responses. Endless information flows into your mind every day. Without clear limits, your attention becomes fragmented. Your thoughts become scattered. Your ability to focus weakens. Protecting your attention is an act of self-respect. It means creating periods of quiet. It means allowing yourself time to think deeply. It means choosing when you are available, instead of remaining accessible every moment. A focused mind produces better decisions, stronger relationships, and greater peace. Another area where boundaries matter greatly is respect. Some people repeatedly criticize, manipulate, or undermine others. They disguise harmful behavior as honesty. They dismiss feelings, they ignore requests, they cross lines again and again. When this happens, many people continue tolerating the behavior because they hope it will improve on its own. Unfortunately, repeated tolerance often teaches others that their actions have no consequences. Respect grows where boundaries exist. When you communicate clearly about what you will accept, people gain a better understanding of how to treat you. Not everyone will respond positively. Some individuals benefit from your lack of boundaries. They may become frustrated when limits appear. Their reaction does not mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes resistance is simply proof that the boundary was necessary. Strong boundaries also improve self-respect. Every time you honor your needs, you send yourself an important message. You demonstrate that your well-being matters. You show yourself that your time has value. You prove that your peace deserves protection. These small acts gradually strengthen your confidence because your actions begin matching your worth. One common mistake is believing that boundaries require anger. They do not. Some of the strongest boundaries are communicated calmly. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to become hostile. You do not need to create drama. Clarity is often enough. Calm firmness carries tremendous power. It allows you to remain respectful while protecting yourself. There will always be people who misunderstand your boundaries. Some may accuse you of changing. Some may say you are distant. Others may complain that you are less available than before. This can feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to pleasing everyone. Yet growth often requires temporary discomfort. A healthier life sometimes means disappointing those who benefited from your lack of limits. Remember that boundaries are not walls designed to keep everyone out. They are filters that help you decide what enters your life. Healthy relationships survive boundaries. In fact, they often become stronger because expectations become clearer. Trust grows when people communicate honestly. Resentment decreases when limits are respected. Connection improves when both people feel valued. Think about the energy you currently spend worrying, overcommitting, explaining, rescuing, and pleasing. Imagine redirecting even a portion of that energy toward your goals: health, learning, relationships, and peace of mind. Imagine waking up with more clarity because your schedule reflects your priorities. Imagine ending the day feeling fulfilled instead of drained. This becomes possible when boundaries are treated as an essential part of life rather than an optional skill. The strongest people are not those who give endlessly without rest. The strongest people understand where their responsibility ends. They know when to engage and when to step back. They know when to listen and when to remain silent. They know when to help and when to allow others to solve their own problems. This wisdom preserves their energy and allows them to remain effective over the long term. Your energy is a resource that deserves careful protection. Every day, you decide where it goes. Every conversation, commitment, and relationship receives a portion of it. Choose wisely, guard it carefully, invest it intentionally. The quality of your life will often depend on the quality of these decisions. When you begin setting healthy personal boundaries, something remarkable happens. You feel lighter. Your mind becomes calmer. Your relationships become clearer. Your priorities become stronger. Most importantly, you stop living at the mercy of other people's demands and start living in alignment with your values. That is not selfishness. That is maturity. That is wisdom. And that is one of the most powerful ways to protect your happiness for years to come. Chapter 7. Develop self-respect and stop chasing validation. Self-respect is one of the most important foundations of a peaceful life. Without it, a person becomes vulnerable to the opinions, judgments, and approval of others. They begin looking outside themselves for a sense of worth. They measure their value through attention, praise, acceptance, and recognition. When these things are present, they feel confident. When they disappear, they feel uncertain. This creates an unstable emotional life because other people become the judges of your identity. Many people spend years chasing validation without realizing it. They seek it in conversations. They seek it in relationships. They seek it in achievements. They seek it through appearance. They seek it through social approval. They seek it through being needed. At first, validation feels rewarding. A compliment creates excitement. Recognition creates satisfaction. Approval creates comfort. But these feelings never last very long. The mind quickly wants more. What felt enough yesterday feels insufficient today. The search continues. This is why external validation can become a trap. It creates dependence. Instead of building confidence from character, effort, and integrity, a person begins depending on reactions. They need others to confirm what they should already know about themselves. This dependence quietly steals freedom because every decision becomes influenced by how it will be received, rather than whether it is right. Self-respect grows from a completely different source. It is built through your relationship with yourself. It comes from knowing that your actions match your values. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. It comes from acting honestly when dishonesty would be easier. It comes from doing what is necessary, even when nobody is watching. These experiences create something deeper than confidence. They create trust. Trust in yourself changes everything. When you trust yourself, you no longer need constant reassurance. You stop looking around every corner for confirmation that you are enough. You begin standing on your own judgment. This does not mean becoming arrogant. It means developing a quiet certainty that your worth does not rise and fall with public opinion. Many people lose self-respect little by little. Rarely does it disappear in a single moment. Instead, it fades through small compromises. A person remains silent when they should speak. They tolerate behavior that violates their values. They repeatedly ignore their own needs. They accept treatment they know is wrong. They abandon personal goals because someone else disapproves. These decisions may seem small, but they send a powerful message to the mind. They teach you that your own voice matters less than someone else's comfort. The opposite process builds self-respect. Each time you honor your principles, you strengthen it. Each time you tell the truth despite fear, you strengthen it. Each time you refuse to betray your values for acceptance, you strengthen it. Self-respect is not given. It is earned through consistent behavior. One reason people chase validation is because they fear rejection. Rejection can feel painful because human beings naturally want connection. We want to belong. We want to be understood. We want to be accepted. There is nothing wrong with these desires. Problems begin when acceptance becomes more important than authenticity. Then a person starts editing themselves to fit every situation. They hide opinions. They suppress emotions. They pretend to agree. They avoid honesty. They shape their personality around what others expect. Eventually, they become disconnected from who they really are. The strange result is that even when they receive approval, it does not feel satisfying because the approval is directed toward a version of themselves that is not fully real. A person with self-respect understands that not everyone will agree with them. Not everyone will admire them. Not everyone will understand their decisions. They accept this reality without becoming bitter. They do not expect universal approval because they understand that different people have different priorities, beliefs, experiences, and perspectives. Imagine trying to gain approval from every person you meet. The task is impossible. One group may praise what another group criticizes. One person may admire your ambition while another views it negatively. One person may appreciate your honesty while another feels uncomfortable because of it. If your identity depends on pleasing everyone, you will spend your entire life changing directions. A stronger approach is to establish clear standards for yourself. Decide what kind of person you want to be. Define the qualities you respect. Focus on living according to those standards. This creates internal stability. Instead of constantly asking what others think, you begin asking whether your actions align with your principles. This shift produces remarkable emotional freedom. Criticism becomes easier to handle because it is no longer an attack on your identity. Praise becomes easier to receive because it is appreciated without becoming necessary. You stop riding an emotional roller coaster, controlled by the reactions of others. Another important part of self-respect is learning to be comfortable with solitude. Many people seek validation because they feel uncomfortable alone. Silence feels empty. Being by themselves feels unsettling. They constantly need interaction, attention, or approval to feel secure. As a result, they become vulnerable to unhealthy relationships because they fear losing connection. When you develop a healthy relationship with yourself, solitude becomes different. It becomes a place of reflection, a place of growth, a place of recovery. You stop viewing time alone as evidence of rejection. Instead, you begin seeing it as an opportunity to strengthen your inner life. There is also great power in accepting your imperfections. Validation seekers often chase impossible standards because they believe perfection will finally earn universal approval. They want flawless performance. They want everyone to admire them. They want every decision to succeed. This creates constant pressure and disappointment. Self-respect takes a more realistic approach. It acknowledges mistakes without becoming defined by them. It accepts weaknesses while continuing to improve. It allows room for learning. Instead of demanding perfection, it demands honesty and effort. This mindset creates resilience because growth becomes more important than appearance. Pay attention to how often you seek permission to trust your own judgment. Some people ask for endless opinions before making simple decisions. They need constant confirmation. They fear making mistakes so much that they stop thinking independently. While advice can be valuable, there comes a point where you must trust yourself enough to choose a direction and move forward. Every time you make a thoughtful decision based on your values, you strengthen self-respect. Every time you solve a problem through your own effort, you strengthen self-respect. Every time you remain true to yourself despite pressure, you strengthen self-respect. These experiences accumulate. Over time, they create a powerful sense of inner confidence. Self-respect also influences the quality of your relationships. When you value yourself, you naturally expect healthier treatment. You communicate more clearly. You recognize unhealthy dynamics sooner. You stop settling for connections that require constant sacrifice of your dignity. This does not make you demanding. It makes you aware of your worth. People often assume that confidence comes first and action follows. In reality, action often comes first. Confidence grows through evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence. Every challenge you face becomes evidence. Every difficult conversation you handle becomes evidence. Every goal you pursue becomes evidence. These experiences gradually convince your mind that you are capable. Violation can never provide this kind of strength because it comes from outside. Self-respect creates strength from within. One depends on reactions, the other depends on character. One disappears when attention fades, the other remains even in silence. There will always be people who misunderstand your choices. There will always be individuals who question your path. There will always be moments when your decisions disappoint someone. If you build your life around avoiding these experiences, you will never fully live according to your own values. Instead, focus on becoming someone you can respect when you are alone. Focus on developing habits that strengthen your character. Focus on speaking honestly. Focus on acting with integrity. Focus on maintaining your standards even when shortcuts appear tempting. These actions build a foundation that no opinion can easily shake. As self-respect grows, the need for validation begins to weaken. You stop chasing approval because you no longer require it to feel whole. You appreciate encouragement when it comes, but you do not depend on it. You welcome recognition, but you do not build your identity around it. You remain grateful for support without becoming controlled by it. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You begin making choices based on purpose rather than popularity. You begin speaking with greater honesty. You begin carrying yourself with greater dignity. You become less concerned with being accepted by everyone and more concerned with remaining faithful to your principles. That is the quiet power of self-respect. It allows you to walk through life with steadiness. It protects your peace from the changing opinions of others. It gives you the courage to be yourself without apology. Most importantly, it reminds you that your value has never depended on how loudly the world applauds. Your value comes from who you choose to be every single day. And once you truly understand that, the endless search for validation begins to lose its grip on your life. Chapter 8. Find lasting happiness through independence and self-trust. Lasting happiness is often searched for in places where it cannot remain. Many people believe happiness will arrive when a certain person stays in their life, when a relationship finally becomes perfect, when someone gives them the attention they desire, or when circumstances unfold exactly as planned. They build their emotional well-being on conditions that can change at any moment. Then one day those conditions change, and the happiness that seemed so secure suddenly begins to disappear. This is why so many people experience emotional instability. Their peace depends on factors they do not fully control. Their confidence depends on other people's opinions. Their motivation depends on encouragement from outside sources. Their sense of security depends on guarantees that life rarely provides. As a result, their emotional state rises and falls with every change around them. There is another path. It is quieter. It is stronger. It is built on independence and self-trust. Independence does not mean isolation. It does not mean rejecting support. It does not mean refusing love, friendship, or connection. Human beings naturally benefit from meaningful relationships. The problem begins when connection turns into dependency. Dependency occurs when your happiness becomes attached to something outside yourself. It happens when you believe you cannot be okay unless another person behaves a certain way or a particular situation unfolds according to your expectations. An independent person enjoys relationships without becoming controlled by them. They appreciate support without becoming dependent on it. They value companionship while remaining capable of standing on their own feet. This balance creates emotional stability because their well-being is not constantly at the mercy of circumstances. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is learning how to trust your own ability to handle life. Many people spend years doubting themselves. They question every choice. They fear every mistake. They hesitate whenever uncertainty appears. They constantly search for guarantees before taking action. Unfortunately, guarantees rarely exist. Life asks you to move forward without complete certainty. It asks you to make decisions without knowing every outcome. It asks you to take steps before you feel fully prepared. A person who waits for perfect confidence may remain stuck for years. A person who develops self-trust learns to move despite uncertainty. Self-trust begins with small experiences. It grows every time you solve a problem. It grows every time you recover from disappointment. It grows every time you face difficulty and discover that you are stronger than you believed. These moments create evidence. They teach your mind an important lesson. They teach you that even when life becomes difficult, you have the ability to respond. Many people underestimate how much strength they already possess. They focus so heavily on what could go wrong that they forget everything they have survived. Think about the challenges you have already faced. Think about the setbacks that once seemed overwhelming. Think about the difficult days you thought would never end. Yet somehow you continued, somehow you adapted, somehow you found a way forward. This does not mean every experience was easy. It means you have more resilience than you often recognize. When you remember this truth, your relationship with uncertainty changes. Instead of asking whether the future will be perfect, you begin trusting your ability to handle whatever comes. This creates a deep sense of calm because your confidence is no longer based on controlling every outcome. It is based on your ability to respond wisely. Many people accidentally weaken self-trust through a habit of constant self-doubt. They second-guess every decision. They replay conversations repeatedly. They criticize themselves for small mistakes. They focus on flaws while ignoring progress. Over time, this creates a mind that feels uncertain even when it is capable. Imagine treating a close friend this way. Imagine reminding them of every mistake while ignoring every success. Imagine questioning every choice they make. That friendship would eventually become damaged. The same thing happens within yourself. Self-trust requires a healthier inner relationship. This does not mean ignoring mistakes. It means learning from them without turning them into permanent judgments about your worth. Wise people understand that errors are part of growth. They evaluate what happened. They make adjustments. Then they continue moving forward. They do not spend years punishing themselves for being imperfect. Independence also requires becoming comfortable with making decisions on your own. Many people fear this because they worry about choosing incorrectly. Yet every meaningful life requires personal judgment. At some point, advice ends and responsibility begins. You must decide what matters to you. You must choose your direction. You must determine your priorities. The more you practice independent decision-making, the stronger your confidence becomes. Not because every choice will be perfect, but because you learn that mistakes can be corrected. You learn that uncertainty can be managed. You learn that growth often comes through experience rather than endless preparation. There is another important aspect of independence that many people overlook. It involves learning how to enjoy your own company. Some individuals become uncomfortable whenever they are alone. Silence feels strange. Free time feels empty. They constantly seek distraction because they have never developed a strong relationship with themselves. As a result, they become vulnerable to loneliness, even when surrounded by people. A healthier approach is to create a life that remains meaningful whether others are present or not. Learn new skills. Read valuable books. Develop useful habits. Pursue goals that matter to you. Spend time reflecting on your experiences. Build interests that enrich your life. When your life contains purpose, being alone no longer feels like a punishment. It becomes an opportunity. This kind of independence creates freedom. You stop chasing people out of fear. You stop remaining in unhealthy situations simply because you cannot tolerate solitude. You stop accepting poor treatment because you believe you have no alternative. Instead, you become capable of choosing relationships from a position of strength rather than desperation. Self-trust also changes the way you respond to criticism. When you lack trust in yourself, every negative opinion feels threatening. You become defensive. You become anxious. You begin questioning your value. But when you have confidence in your judgment, criticism becomes easier to evaluate. Useful feedback can be accepted. Unfair criticism can be released. You no longer treat every opinion as a final verdict on your worth. This freedom extends into daily life. You become less concerned about impressing others. You become less affected by temporary approval. You stop measuring your success through comparison. Instead, you focus on your own growth, your own standards, your own progress. Comparison is one of the greatest enemies of happiness. There will always be someone with more money, more recognition, more opportunities, or more success in a particular area. If you constantly measure yourself against others, satisfaction remains out of reach. Independence helps you escape this trap because your attention returns to your own path. Your journey is unique. Your experiences are unique. Your challenges are unique. Comparing your progress to someone else's circumstances rarely produces wisdom. It often produces frustration. A healthier question is whether you are becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were before. There will be moments when independence feels uncomfortable. Growth often does. There will be times when making your own choices feels risky. There will be situations where trusting yourself feels unfamiliar. Continue anyway. Confidence is not built by avoiding these experiences. Confidence is built by moving through them. Every challenge you handle strengthens your foundation. Every problem you solve reinforces your resilience. Every decision you make thoughtfully develops greater trust in your abilities. Over time, these experiences create something powerful. They create an inner stability that does not depend on constant reassurance. The happiest people are rarely those who control every circumstance. They are often the people who have learned to rely on themselves. They trust their ability to adapt. They trust their ability to learn. They trust their ability to recover. Because of this, they move through life with greater peace. When you develop independence and self-trust, happiness becomes less fragile. It stops depending on perfect conditions. It stops depending on constant approval. It stops depending on the behavior of others. Instead, it begins growing from something much deeper. It grows from knowing that whatever happens, you will face it with courage. It grows from knowing that setbacks do not define you. It grows from knowing that uncertainty does not need to control you. It grows from knowing that your strength is not borrowed from others, but built through your own character and experience. That is the kind of happiness that lasts. It remains during success. It remains during difficulty. It remains during change. It remains when people come and go. It remains because it is rooted in something dependable. It is rooted in your ability to trust yourself and stand firmly on your own foundation. That foundation becomes stronger every day you choose growth over fear, responsibility over excuses, and self-trust over doubt. Chapter 9. Practice forgiveness and free yourself from emotional burdens. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many people think it means pretending nothing happened or saying that the hurt was acceptable. That is not forgiveness. True forgiveness is a decision to stop carrying a wound as if it must stay open forever. It is a way of freeing your mind from the constant weight of replaying what was done to you. It does not always restore trust. It does not erase consequences. It does not force closeness. It simply ends the inner prison where anger, resentment keep taking up space. When someone hurts you, the first reaction is often resistance. The mind wants answers. It wants fairness. It wants the other person to understand the damage they caused. It wants the past to change into something less painful. None of that is strange. It is human. But if you stay there too long, the pain begins to shape your daily life. You wake up thinking about it. You carry it into your work. You bring it into your next relationship. You speak through it without even noticing. The hurt starts to influence more than one moment. It becomes part of your emotional environment. Forgiveness interrupts that process. It says this pain happened, and I will not deny it, but I refuse to let it rule every part of my future. That is a powerful decision. It does not mean the memory disappears. It means the memory loses its authority over your peace. You stop feeding it with endless replay. You stop letting it define your identity. You stop acting as though the wound must remain active in order for the lesson to remain real. Many people hold on to pain because they believe it protects them. They think if they forgive too soon, they are being weak or careless. They think anger keeps them alert. They think resentment prevents them from being hurt again. But in reality, chronic anger often hurts the person carrying it more than the person who caused it. The wound keeps breathing inside the mind. It drains energy. It colors ordinary moments with bitterness. It narrows your view of life. It makes it harder to enjoy what is good because part of you is still standing in what went wrong. Forgiveness begins with honesty. You have to admit that something affected you deeply. Not all pain is loud. Some of it is quiet and lasting. Some people smile while carrying years of disappointment. Some keep working while carrying hidden grief. Some appear calm while remembering every betrayal in silence. Honesty gives the pain a name. Once it is named, it becomes something you can face rather than something that silently controls you. From there, forgiveness becomes a choice about what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to become a person shaped by injury alone, or a person shaped by wisdom after injury? Do you want to keep reliving the same emotional event, or do you want to move toward life that is lighter and more grounded? Forgiveness is not for the benefit of those who wronged you. It is for the health of your own spirit. It protects your future from being poisoned by your past. There are different ways to forgive. Sometimes forgiveness is quiet and internal. You make a private decision to release the anger because holding it has become too heavy. Sometimes forgiveness is gradual. You do not wake up one morning completely free. You soften little by little. The charge around the memory weakens. The pain loses intensity. Sometimes forgiveness includes distance. You may forgive someone and still choose not to keep them close. That is valid. Peace does not require access. It requires clarity. A wise person understands that forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. You can forgive someone for what happened and still remain careful around them. You can release bitterness and still remember the pattern. You can let go of emotional burden and still make wise decisions about boundaries. This balance keeps forgiveness realistic. It prevents it from turning into self-betrayal. Forgiveness should never ask you to ignore your safety or your dignity. One of the hardest parts of forgiving is accepting that you may never receive the apology you deserve. Many people stay stuck because they are waiting for the other person to make things right in the exact way they imagine. They want the perfect apology. They want the clear explanation. They want the regret to be obvious. They want the other person to finally understand. Sometimes that happens. Many times it does not. If you wait forever for another person to unlock your peace, you hand them power they should not have. Real freedom begins when you decide that your healing cannot depend entirely on someone else's willingness to admit fault. You may never get that conversation. You may never hear the words you hoped for. You may never see the change you wanted. But you can still choose not to carry the wound forever. That is not surrender. That is strength. Forgiveness also means forgiving yourself. This is often the most difficult part. People are sometimes much harsher with themselves than they are with others. They replay mistakes for years. They criticize every wrong choice. They shame themselves for trusting the wrong person, saying the wrong thing, or missing what seemed obvious later. Yet, self-punishment rarely produces wisdom. It usually produces exhaustion. If you made a mistake, learn from it. If you stayed too long, understand why. If you ignored warning signs, examine the reasons without cruelty. If you allowed the wrong person in, use the experience to become wiser. Growth requires review, but not self-attack. You do not heal by insulting yourself. You heal by understanding your story clearly and choosing better next time. The emotional burden many people carry is not only about what happened. It is also about how long they have been carrying it. Years of anger create habits. The body tightens. The mind expects trouble. Trust becomes harder. Joy feels smaller. That is why forgiveness can feel like opening a window in a room that has been shut for too long. Fresh air does not solve everything at once, but it changes the atmosphere. The heart begins to breathe again. A practical way to practice forgiveness is to separate the event from the entire future. Ask yourself what happened. What did it cost you? What did it teach you? What part of it still needs attention? Then ask what you are still holding that no longer serves you. Often people discover they are carrying more pain than the original event itself requires. They are carrying imagined conversations. They are carrying anger about the fact that the person moved on. They are carrying the desire to prove they were right. These burdens keep the wound alive long after the event has passed. Another helpful step is to replace the question "why me" with "what now?" "Why me" often keeps the mind stuck in blame and confusion. "What now" turns attention toward action. "What now" allows you to decide how you will live after the hurt. "What now" helps you reclaim your energy. "What now" is a question of movement. It does not deny the past, but it refuses to worship it. Forgiveness grows stronger when you remember that everyone is imperfect. That does not excuse harmful behavior. It simply reminds you that people act out of fear, ignorance, pain, pride, and weakness more often than they admit. Understanding this can soften the heart without making it naive. You see the damage clearly, but you also see that living with hatred only adds more damage to your own life. When you forgive, you do not erase memory. You change your relationship with memory. Instead of using it as a source of constant pain, you use it as a source of insight. Instead of letting it reopen old anger every day, you let it inform wiser choices. That shift is what frees you. The event becomes a lesson instead of a chain. There is dignity in a heart that no longer needs to keep score forever. There is strength in a mind that can remember without reliving. There is peace in a person who has suffered and still chosen not to become bitter. That kind of peace is not weak. It is disciplined. It is mature. It is built from honest pain, clear thought, and a deep refusal to let injury become identity. Forgiveness is not always quick, but it is always worth pursuing. Every piece of resentment you release makes room for something better. More calm, more clarity, more energy, more openness, more life. The burden grows lighter when you stop insisting on carrying it as proof of what you endured. Your past happened. Your pain was real. But your future does not need to remain shaped by the heaviest part of it. Freeing yourself from emotional burdens is one of the most respectful things you can do for your own life. It says, my peace matters, my healing matters, my future matters, and I will not allow old hurt to occupy the whole house of my mind. That is what forgiveness gives back to you. Space, breath, strength, and a quieter heart that finally has room to live. Chapter 10. Embrace detachment and enjoy life with greater freedom. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood ideas in personal growth. Many people hear the word and imagine distance, coldness, or a lack of feeling. They imagine someone who no longer cares about people, goals, relationships, or life itself. But true detachment is something very different. It is not the absence of care. It is the absence of unnecessary dependence. It is the ability to enjoy life fully without becoming emotionally trapped by every outcome. It is learning how to participate in life with an open heart while maintaining inner freedom. Most suffering comes from attachment to things we cannot permanently hold. People become attached to specific outcomes. They become attached to certain expectations. They become attached to how others should behave. They become attached to possessions, status, recognition, and certainty. Then reality changes. Plans fail. People leave. Circumstances shift. Opportunities disappear. Time moves forward. What once seemed secure suddenly becomes uncertain. The more tightly a person clings, the more painful these changes feel. Detachment offers another way to live. It teaches you to appreciate without possessing. It teaches you to care without controlling. It teaches you to enjoy without becoming dependent. This approach creates freedom because your happiness no longer rests entirely on things that can be taken away. Think about how many people postpone happiness. They tell themselves they will finally enjoy life when a certain problem disappears. They will relax when they earn more money. They will feel complete when someone loves them the right way. They will become peaceful when circumstances become perfect. As a result, they spend years waiting for conditions that never fully arrive. Life continues passing while happiness remains delayed. Detachment changes this mindset. It teaches you to stop placing your peace in the future. It encourages you to find value in the present moment. Not because everything is perfect, but because life is happening right now. The ability to appreciate the present is one of the greatest forms of freedom a person can develop. Many individuals become prisoners of outcomes. They work hard toward a goal, which is admirable, but then they attach their entire identity to achieving it. If they succeed, they feel worthy. If they fail, they feel broken. This creates emotional instability because self-worth becomes linked to results. A healthier approach is to commit fully to effort while remaining flexible about outcomes. Give your best. Prepare carefully. Work diligently. Then allow reality to unfold. Success becomes enjoyable because it is appreciated without becoming necessary for self-respect. Failure becomes manageable because it is viewed as information rather than personal defeat. This mindset creates resilience. Life becomes less frightening when you stop demanding certainty from every situation. You begin understanding that uncertainty is part of the human experience. No one receives guarantees. No one controls every variable. No one avoids disappointment completely. Yet many people still build meaningful and fulfilling lives because they learn how to move forward without requiring perfect conditions. Detachment also changes the way you experience relationships. Many people love with fear instead of freedom. They become consumed by worry. They constantly seek reassurance. They monitor every interaction. They fear loss so intensely that they struggle to enjoy what they already have. Their attachment creates anxiety because they are always trying to prevent change. Healthy detachment allows love to breathe. It allows appreciation without ownership. It recognizes that every person is an individual with their own thoughts, choices, and journey. Instead of trying to control another person, you focus on showing up honestly and respectfully. This creates stronger connections because relationships become based on trust rather than fear. There is also freedom in accepting that nothing lasts forever. Many people resist this truth because it feels uncomfortable. Yet accepting impermanence often makes life richer. When you understand that moments are temporary, you appreciate them more deeply. You become more present during conversations. You become more grateful for opportunities. You become more aware of simple joys that might otherwise be ignored. Imagine holding a beautiful experience without demanding that it remain unchanged forever. Imagine enjoying a friendship without fearing every possible ending. Imagine appreciating success without becoming obsessed with maintaining it indefinitely. This is the spirit of detachment. It allows you to enjoy life more fully because you stop fighting reality. One of the greatest obstacles to freedom is emotional overinvestment in things beyond your control. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy worrying about possibilities that may never happen. They imagine future problems. They create worst-case scenarios. They mentally rehearse disappointments. These habits steal joy from the present while providing little benefit. Detachment encourages a different approach. Focus on what exists right now. Handle today's responsibilities. Respond to actual situations rather than imagined disasters. This habit reduces unnecessary stress and allows your attention to remain grounded in reality. Another important aspect of detachment involves possessions. Modern culture often encourages the belief that happiness comes from acquiring more success, more recognition, more status, more material comfort. While practical needs matter, endless pursuit rarely creates lasting satisfaction. Once one desire is fulfilled, another quickly appears. A detached person enjoys what they have without making possessions the center of their identity. They appreciate comfort without becoming dependent on it. They value achievement without worshipping it. They understand that external things can enhance life but cannot replace inner peace. Detachment also strengthens emotional recovery. When setbacks occur, detached individuals recover more quickly because they do not interpret every challenge as a catastrophe. They understand that circumstances change. They know that today's disappointment does not define tomorrow's possibilities. They maintain perspective during difficult periods. This perspective becomes especially valuable during major life transitions. Relationships end, careers change, people relocate, children grow up, health circumstances shift. Every life contains periods of uncertainty. Those who cling rigidly to the past often suffer more than necessary because they resist what has already happened. Those who practice detachment adapt more effectively because they focus on responding rather than resisting. A useful question to ask yourself is this: what am I currently holding too tightly? Perhaps it is an old regret. Perhaps it is a relationship that has already changed. Perhaps it is an expectation that reality keeps refusing to satisfy. Perhaps it is an image of how life should look. Identifying these attachments is often the first step toward greater freedom. Once you recognize them, you can begin loosening your grip. This does not require dramatic action. It often starts with a change in perspective. Instead of demanding certainty, choose flexibility. Instead of demanding perfection, choose progress. Instead of demanding permanent security, choose adaptability. These shifts create space for peace. Detachment also helps you enjoy success more deeply. This may sound surprising because many people assume attachment creates motivation. In reality, excessive attachment often creates pressure. It creates fear of loss. It creates anxiety about maintaining results. A detached person can celebrate achievements without becoming consumed by them. They enjoy the experience while remaining grounded. The same principle applies to praise. Compliments feel pleasant, but they do not define identity. Recognition can be appreciated, but it does not determine worth. Detachment allows you to receive positive attention without becoming dependent on it. This creates emotional stability because your confidence remains rooted within yourself. There is tremendous freedom in no longer needing every experience to unfold exactly as planned. Life becomes lighter. You become more adaptable. You stop turning every inconvenience into a crisis. You stop interpreting every change as a threat. You begin viewing challenges as part of the journey rather than interruptions to it. Many people search for freedom in distant places. They believe it exists in wealth, status, travel, or external achievement. While these things may provide opportunities, true freedom begins internally. It begins when you stop allowing circumstances to control your emotional state. It begins when you stop demanding that life constantly satisfy your preferences. It begins when you learn how to remain steady amid change. This steadiness does not happen overnight. It develops through practice. It develops every time you release an expectation that no longer serves you. It develops every time you accept reality without unnecessary resistance. It develops every time you choose peace over emotional struggle. These small moments gradually transform the way you experience life. The beauty of detachment is that it does not take life away from you. It gives life back to you. It removes unnecessary suffering. It reduces emotional dependence. It creates room for gratitude, presence, and joy. Instead of constantly worrying about what might happen, you become more available for what is happening. As this mindset grows stronger, happiness becomes less fragile. It no longer depends on perfect circumstances. It no longer disappears whenever plans change. It no longer relies on constant approval, predictable outcomes, or complete certainty. It becomes something deeper and more reliable. You begin waking up with a quieter mind. You begin facing challenges with greater balance. You begin appreciating people without trying to possess them. You begin pursuing goals without becoming controlled by results. You begin moving through life with greater ease, because you are no longer carrying the heavy burden of attachment. This is the freedom that detachment offers. Not withdrawal from life, but fuller participation in it. Not emotional emptiness, but emotional wisdom. Not indifference, but balance. It is the ability to enjoy what is present, release what is gone, adapt to what changes, and trust yourself through every season of life. And when you reach that place, happiness stops feeling like something you must chase. It becomes something you carry with you. A quiet sense of peace, a steady sense of gratitude, a deep confidence that whatever comes next, you can meet it with clarity, strength, and freedom.